Travel changed my femininity more than any book, class, or podcast ever could. Welcome to day 20. I'm Dr. Nicole, and today I'm sharing something deeply personal: the feminine lessons I learned from traveling across Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, Europe, and beyond. As someone who's lived in different countries and experienced different cultures, been to more than 50 countries, I've seen how femininity expresses itself around the world. I started traveling internationally when I was 13, and what I discovered challenged everything I thought I knew about what it means to be a soft, feminine woman. These aren't just travel stories, these are lessons that completely transformed over time how I understand and embody my own femininity. The first thing that struck me was how women across cultures embrace softness without apology. In Morocco, I watched women take hours to get ready, applying henna, doing each other's hair, adorning themselves with beautiful fabrics and jewelry. There was no rushing, no guilt about taking time for beauty. In the Caribbean, I saw women move with this incredible grace and sensuality. I saw that throughout Africa too. Go to West Africa and watch a woman carry something on her head and stand with beautiful posture. They walk slowly, they speak melodiously, they laugh freely. In many places, there's no shame about being feminine, about being soft, about being beautiful. In different parts of Africa that I've been to, I witnessed women who prioritized beauty, rest, community, and nourishment as non negotiables. They would stop everything for tea time. They would spend entire afternoons just talking and connecting. They would dress beautifully, even for ordinary days, with adornments and accessories. What struck me was that these women didn't see softness as weakness or frivolity. They saw it as essential to who they were as women. This was so different from the things that you see in Western places like the US. In these places, femininity often feels like something you have to apologize for or justify. Where taking time for beauty feels selfish, where moving slowly feels lazy, where prioritizing rest feels irresponsible. But in these different cultures that I'm talking about, femininity wasn't something to be ashamed of, it was something to be celebrated. The second lesson was about slowness as a ritual, not a luxury. In Italy, I experienced the concept of the sweet life. Meals lasted for hours. Conversations were deep and meaningful. There was no rushing from one thing to the next. In many Middle Eastern cultures, I saw how afternoon rest wasn't seen as laziness, it was seen as wisdom. The whole culture would slow down during the hottest part of the day. Shops would close, people would rest, life would pause. In parts of Europe, I noticed how people would sit in cafes for hours, just watching life go by. They weren't on their phones, they weren't multitasking, they were just present. This slowness wasn't about being unproductive, it was about being intentional. It was about savoring life instead of rushing through it. And I realized that this slowness was deeply connected to femininity. Feminine energy is about being, not just doing. It's about presence, not just productivity. It's about flow, not just force. When I started incorporating this slowness into my own life, eating meals without rushing, having conversations without checking my phone, moving through my day with intention instead of urgency, I felt my femininity return in ways that I was craving for. The third lesson was about receiving, and this one is huge for so many of us. In so many cultures I visited, I watched women receive help, attention, and compliments without guilt or deflection. When someone complimented their appearance, they said thank you or mashallah with a smile, instead of listing everything wrong with themselves or downplaying it. When women offered to help them, they accepted graciously instead of insisting they could handle everything alone. When someone wanted to pay for their meal, and I saw this big, I love this in Ethiopia, or buy them a gift, they received it with appreciation instead of rejecting it. This became revolutionary for me because I had seen examples and almost been conditioned to deflect compliments, to say, you know what, I can do it, I don't want to bother you, or to feel guilty about receiving things. But in these cultures, receiving was seen as part of feminine identity. It wasn't selfish or weak, it was natural and beautiful. I learned that when you can receive gracefully, you actually give others the gift of giving. You allow them to express their care, their appreciation, their love, and their culture. And I realized that my inability to receive at times wasn't protecting anyone, it was actually blocking connection and intimacy in many of my closest relationships. The fourth lesson was about community and how femininity thrives in connection, not isolation. In many African cultures, I saw how women naturally gathered. They cooked together, they raised children together, they supported each other through challenges together. Competition and comparison and trying to do everything alone were minimized. There was this beautiful understanding that women are stronger together. I witnessed how women were able to celebrate each other's successes, how they could lift each other up and share resources and create this incredible network of support, including supporting each other's businesses and contributing to money saving vehicles like the Susu. This was so different from the individualistic culture in the West, where women often feel like they have to compete with each other or handle everything on their own. But I learned that femininity is communal. It's about connection, collaboration, and mutual support. It's about understanding that we're all in this together. When I started prioritizing my friendships and my community of women, I started asking for help instead of trying to do things alone. And I learned the power of celebrating other women instead of comparing to them. As a result, my own femininity flourished. These travel experiences didn't just teach me about other cultures, they taught me about myself. I realized that we are often conditioned in a very narrow definition of what it means to be a successful woman. We are taught that we have to be hard, fast, independent, and constantly productive. But seeing femininity expressed so beautifully and unapologetically around the world showed me that there is also another way. You can be soft and strong, which I love. I can be slow and successful. I can receive and still be independent. You can prioritize beauty and rest and community without being frivolous or being seen as lazy. Travel gave me permission to be feminine in a way that felt authentic and powerful, not performative or weak. After my last time coming back to the States after living abroad in Botswana, I thought about how I wanted these lessons to be incorporated throughout my life. I gave myself permission to take longer to get ready, not because I was vain, but because I was honoring the ritual of beauty. I learned to eat meals more slowly, having deeper conversations, creating more space for rest and reflection. I started receiving compliments and help more gracefully and saying, yes, thank you, I appreciate it. I understood that this was part of my feminine power. I started prioritizing community with other women, understanding that isolation wasn't strength, but connection was. These weren't just cultural practices I was adopting, they were parts of my femininity that I was able to reclaim. Travel teaches you who you are and who you're allowed to be. You don't have to travel the world to embrace these lessons. You can start incorporating slowness, softness, receiving, and community into your life right where you are. Your femininity doesn't have to look like anyone else's, but it deserves to be expressed fully and unapologetically. I talk about more of these lessons in my book, Global Insights: The Zen of Travel and Being in the World. You can see it in the show notes. Don't forget to hit subscribe for day 21, where we're getting back to relationships and talking about how to stop attracting situationships, practical strategies for attracting real commitment. Tell me in the comments, what's one way you want to honor your femininity more fully? I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Dr. Nicole.